Hey everyone, John Phillips here, and welcome to the PJTV Election Round Table. Joining me on set is Tammy Bruce, host of the Tammy Bruce radio show, which you can conveniently get online at tammybruce.com. And next to her is Stephen Kruiser, host of Kruiser Control, right here on PJTV. And in case you haven't heard, there was a storm on the East Coast.
Say what?
People have just been not
if
talking
it was
about
in
this
Libya, we wouldn't have known anything about it.
Yeah.
And
Thank God it was here.
her name is Sandy. And for all of you Ann Curry partisans out there that don't watch the Today Show anymore, Sandy is already being blamed on, get this, global warming. Watch this clip.
First it was Hurricane Irene, then last October's freak snowstorm, and now Sandy. Mother Nature has put an unprecedented strain on the power grid, and some experts are wondering if climate change is to blame.
Good to see the bald guy from Channel 2 was able to turn up somewhere. Chris Matthews has a slightly different take. He's blaming global warming, and get this, Republicans. Watch Chris Matthews.
So much power.
Well, Professor Oppenheimer, back in the 60s, we called such people pigs. Pigs. No, really, they don't care about the planet. They don't care about the destruction of war. All they want is what they got, their stuff, and they want more of it. Is that what we're facing here, just greed of people? I'm not talking about the guy working at a coal mine. That's hard work. I'm talking about people who won't listen to you, won't listen to science because they want more stuff.
Listen, Chris, I'm not into name calling here. I think we've got to. Fine, that's your job, not mine.
Thought in the 60s, Chris Matthews called the cops pigs. I don't know. I guess he's called Republicans pigs now, too. Anyway, how blatant is the left trying to use Sandy to just hammer Mitt Romney and the Republicans?
Look, anything that would have been happening, whether it's Sandy or any kind of weather dynamic, butterflies landing on the wrong flowers, the Republicans' fault, cats sleeping with dogs, a cat scratches you. I mean, whatever it might be. There's a drop of rain, the bird, poos on your car. Everything is Republican fault, and they have to resort to that, obviously, because they can't argue on the details of the issues. They're clearly in a free fall. The bottom is dropping out of the Obama campaign. Here you've got Chris Matthews sitting comfortably in a studio making millions of dollars a year, and he's talking about greed as he points fingers at other people. It really is the highlight of what liberals are doing these days. It's not surprising.
And this is not a man-made disaster. It's not like it's something that Bain Capital did or something that Mitt Romney did when he was governor of Massachusetts. This is an act of God. This is something that the
Maybe
Republicans
they think we're God.
have
Are they
no
finally
control
admitting
over.
that?
Well, that would be where the disconnect is, because most Democrats don't believe in God anymore, so you can start from that. And the other thing is it's finally brought the one issue that they've been clamoring to get out into the forefront there. I mean, you've had Al Gore whining constantly for weeks now that no one's talking about climate change. So it gives them a chance to pump up this bad science of theirs. Like you had was that Harry Reid in there? The bald guy from Channel 2 that you mentioned? Well, I'm not Harry Reid. Harry Smith.
Yeah.
Same thing. Harry Reid, Harry Smith.
Yeah,
It's really a cruel joke when your name is Harry and you're
But he's talking about,
go.
they're talking about the record power outages and things like that. You know why you have record power outages? Because we're in a well-developed, fortunate country where more people have power. Had this storm hit in the third world country, not so many people would be without power. People, they look at it from the wrong angle. They don't go about it. They're not scientific. This is weather, plain and simple. There were Category 4, 3, and 2 hurricanes that hit New York in the late 1800s, too, and nobody had SUVs then.
It's possible to overreach on this, isn't it? Because if the voters see you blaming something on somebody or some particular ideology or political party they clearly had nothing to do with, then it can backfire. It can blow up in your face like a hillbilly's
Well,
rifle.
Obama's with the hillbilly what? I had no idea I was going to hear the word hillbilly at the end of that. That's fabulous.
But we are talking about Al Gore and his
That's true.
screeching menopausal explosions.
There we go. It's already happened to Obama. I mean, that's what happened with the first debate. And why everyone was shocked is that they had spent $150 million over the summer to cast Romney as one thing, and people found out it was a lie. And people might agree that we can all disagree on strategies and how to get, using the different roads to get to Rome. Mm-hmm. But when people find out you've been lying to them, we don't like it very much. And I think Obama's finally fit into that. Arguments about global warming and the hysteria around that. Obviously, Americans have rejected that. And we see Chris Matthews now. Look, it's a sideshow. It's a circus. Americans
He's jumped the shark.
Well,
jumped the whale.
He's always been a favorite of yours, I know, when it comes to the opposition and learning what's going on. But I think that it's going to start wearing on people. NBC still only exists because of the stimulus. 29, I think, billion, wasn't it, to GE, and then the commercial buying on shows like Chris Matthews. It's been propped up by the Obama administration. I don't think Romney's going to be doing that.
And it seems like there's no difference between MSNBC and NBC News, because the first clip was not Chris Matthews, it wasn't Rachel Maddow, it wasn't Ed Schultz. That was the Today Show.
Yeah. Well, if you look to your point there, Brian Williams is actually as out there as Chris Matthews in most of what he says and reports when he tries to skew the news. He just delivers it in a less hysterical manner, so it doesn't seem as out there as Chris Matthews. But they really are as partisan in the national newsroom at NBC as they are at MSNBC. And even though they've tried to separate them recently, you go to get to the MSNBC site, you still go to the NBC News site to get there. That's the way it works.
And it's hurt their ratings too, because for the first time in I can't remember how long, ABC's Good Morning America has leapfrogged the Today Show in ratings. Robin Roberts is out. She's got cancer that she's dealing with. And with fill-in hosts, they're beating the Today Show. Yep. I think Red State America is punishing NBC News for this kind of garbage.
I think everybody is. I mean, look, we're based in California. You know, we're conservatives. We have maybe a very different point of view than, let's say, maybe Iowa conservatives. But there's a strain in Americans here where we're getting sick and tired of being taken for a ride. You know, this is serious business here, and the media has had a free ride. Look at Obama, didn't take advantage of being the president of the United States and actually doing good things. He was an indulgent, petulant child, and the media has done the same thing. You've seen the interesting unraveling of the liberal agenda on almost every platform.
Now talk to me about the politics of this, because this is what I refer to as a village people moment, where you have politicians and go out and they can dress up like a firefighter. Mayor Villaraigosa here in Los Angeles loves this.
I'm the Indian.
Are you the Indian already?
Totally the Indian.
You could be the biker. But you get to dress up like the cop, the firefighter, the emergency responder, and go out and have your picture in the front page of every newspaper in the country. Is there going to be a bounce for President Obama since he's looking presidential here? He's looking like a guy in charge, looking like a guy who's responding to this disaster and feeling their pain. You going to get a bounce out of this?
I don't think so, because I think the electorate is so entrenched in their beliefs right now. I mean, the undecided voter, to the extent that they still exist and are going to vote, as we were discussing before we started today, I don't know that that's enough to move any of them. I think some of them have been paying enough attention to Benghazi, even though the news hasn't been talking about it, to know that, okay, he didn't have much of a presidential moment there. And I don't think that they're dumb enough to believe that they've got situation room photos going out now, all those things that were absent during the Benghazi crisis, because, he's on his way to Vegas, baby. He need to take a nap. There were no...
Hey, Dottie and Marie aren't going to watch themselves.
Yeah, there were
cut them some slack.
There were no sit reps going on there. So so I don't know that it's going to be enough to move it, but the interesting thing to me is I'm pretty sure that everyone at Obama for America is convinced that this little song and dance is going to be enough to move.
Okay, Tammy, they hit blue states, this Hurricane Sandy. New Jersey got hit the worst. New York got hit pretty badly, the city especially.
Maybe it is a voice from God. I was going to reject that notion, but wait a minute. Maybe it is a message.
But other states, including swing states, have felt the wrath of Hurricane Sandy, including the state of Ohio. And we have some maps of the state of Ohio. If we can, put the map of Ohio back in 2004. Look at where the Republicans are, and look at where the Democrats are. Republicans red, Democrats blue. Ohio got a ton of snow dumped on it after Sandy hit shore. And it hit the northern part of the state. It hit Cleveland. It hit the portion of the state where all the Democrats live. And if you look at the 2008 version of Ohio, it's a very similar sort of map. Do you think, and there it is, look at that one. That's actually, that's 2008 right there. Do you think that if it just affects just a few votes in northern Ohio, that could tip the balance of power from Obama to Romney because of the snow, because of Sandy?
I'm thinking with that earlier footage of Obama and Chris Christie, that was more of a Laurel and Hardy moment, and the people who like comedy would actually maybe start voting for Obama. Here's the deal, and we actually discussed this a little bit beforehand. If Obama is going to win, and we don't really see that trajectory, if it affects a few votes, maybe a little bit, but your point I think is right on. People have decided, and I thought this break, even with Sandy, was good. People were thinking, how was it going to affect things? I don't think much. There's two things though that will affect with that kind of a of a hit, no matter in whatever state you're in, is beyond it being more difficult to get out and vote, which is what Karl Rove's point is for everybody. The fact is, it's the enthusiasm dynamic. Republicans aren't going to care. They'll crawl over glass to vote for Mitt Romney. If you're kind of ambivalent about Obama, but he looked kind of presidential standing there with you know, in the hurricane and helping, and it's still kind of flooded and cold, you're staying in. So this is where people are thinking the enthusiasm gap is important for turnout, but when it becomes more difficult to vote and the commitment to what it is you're doing, people are not going to open that door and have to put on a coat and wonder if it's going to be a safe drive to vote for Barack Obama. And I don't blame them.
There's some portions of New Jersey and New York that are without power right now and that will be without power through Election Day. And a lot of these people have evacuated. A lot of these people have gone to other states. A lot of these people have gone to other cities. And if you're sitting someplace, you're sitting at your mother-in-law's house in Connecticut, and you're watching the returns come in on Election Day, are you going to get in the car and drive back to your precinct in New York or New Jersey to vote unless, like you said, you're super motivated to do it? So the enthusiasm thing is going to be huge in this election.
As far as the geography of this right now, I don't think that they're going to be able to make that big a stink anyway, because there isn't going to be enough of a shift in New York. Thank God for the Electoral College now, because there isn't going to be enough of a shift in New York to deliver New York's electoral votes to Mitt Romney.
That would never happen.
They'll have nothing to raise. I mean, the people in Upper Manhattan who still have power could be the only ones voting, and he would still win New York handily, and Obama would still win.
And the Bloomberg endorsement today, look, these things mean nothing, and that's the problem when you're in someone's pocket. For everybody listening in New York and in every other blue state, and you're a liberal and you subscribe, you watch PJTV because it matters. When you are in someone's pocket, they don't care. They don't have to work to get your vote. It means nothing. Be winnable. You know, it's the difference between whether or not, it's like finally Barack Obama in these last 5 days is buying ads in Wisconsin and in Michigan. God, I mean, what do you know? Suddenly you guys are putting up a flag saying, hey, wait a minute. We do kind of like this Romney guy. And the guy that takes you for granted is suddenly paying you some attention. What do you know?
Major Garrett, formerly of Fox News, now he's writing for the National Journal, has a piece out where he says that one of the effects of the hurricane could be that it depresses turnout in these states of these soft Obama supporters, these people that support him, but they don't support him enough to go out and brave the snow, brave the cold. Okay, let's say some of those people stay home. Obama still wins New York, New Jersey, those northeastern states. Could this produce a scenario where Romney wins the popular vote, but Obama wins the Electoral College because he doesn't win those northeastern states by the same margins that he won in 2008, but he still cobbles together enough electoral votes to win the whole thing? Major Garrett thinks that's a possibility. You think that could happen?
I think as long as everybody's been talking about that the last few weeks, this is the first time it's become plausible. I still don't think it's going to happen because they're predicating this on some kind of, which gets back to the enthusiasm thing, some kind of 2008-esque Democrat voter turnout, and that was never going to happen in the first place. They might have a convenient excuse after the fact right now to go, oh, well, this is why it didn't happen. I think that's all it's done is give them an excuse. I don't think it was ever going to happen in the first place. I don't think it's keeping that many people away from the polls right now, because especially in the big states, you know how it gets in a state that's too blue or too red. The people on the winning side think, we got this, and so they're not that motivated in the first place. I don't think anybody in New York was any Democrats in New York were going, I got to get out and vote for this guy.
Those are states that are already really going to go for Obama. If you're talking about Ohio, you've already shown with the map that this is going to affect Obama voters.
It hurts Obama in Ohio.
So look, Major Garrett's proposition is a little odd in that, if anything, it means that you're looking at a stronger Romney win in both the popular vote and the Electoral College, because if the weather's going to affect something, maybe it would affect who Ohio goes to.
How bitter should we be? How bitter do we have the right to be if Obama wins the electoral vote but loses the popular vote? Country western song bitter?
Country, that's the
Scottish bitter.
This is another one of those things like
Hatfields and McCoys bitter.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. But everybody, it's Hatfields and McCoys. But we're already there. People, the country is so divided. That's why I love it when people say that. We're just all fighting with each other. I'm pretty sure the country had some political divisions in the 1860s too. But everybody kind of forgets about those. But no, I don't. I just don't think it's going to happen. If it does, it's going to be the flip of 2000, where suddenly everybody who loved the Electoral College then is going to hate the Electoral College now, because we're fickle little beings like that. I won't be, but.
All right, well, how about Romney? Because it's difficult to deal with a natural disaster when you're out of power. You're not the president. You're not the guy who's there with the power of the government. You're not the guy who's stepping off of Air Force One and can deliver dollars and can make sure that FEMA is there to do what FEMA is supposed to do. Did Romney play his hand of cards right when Sandy hit?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Obama has been pretending to be president. He's continued to pretend to be president. People now were savvy enough, especially now with the internet, about what people have really done, what their policies have really accomplished. We know who Romney is. We don't need, it's kind of sick that Barack Obama needs a natural disaster to try to show people something. A president in the issue of governing shows that kind of level of commitment throughout. When you think of President Reagan, you don't only remember him in a crisis dynamic, it was a consistent situation. So I actually think, especially when in comparison to Benghazi, the fact that they are doing the opposite in this than they did with Benghazi means that they know what to do when there's a crisis. Mm-hmm. And it reveals even more harshly the cold inhumanity from the White House during the Benghazi situation. When Obama said at the Red Cross, "We leave no one behind." I mean, this is not what, when you talk about a president having a camera, I want Obama to be able to be in front as often as possible. Romney did food drives. People were coming to events that had been canceled. They asked them to bring things. The media even attacked Romney for getting stuff for the victims.
Well, it's a no-win situation if you're the challenger.
Well, look, you're dealing with circus clowns and crazy people. But the American people, it reinforced the issues about what we think of Obama and what we think of Romney.
Well, we asked our PJTV fans how they thought Sandy would affect the presidential race, and here's what they had to say. Bill Galt thinks, quote, "Very few voters, if any, would be likely to change their mind at this point." PJTV fan Gail Sikora says that she hopes that people see through President Obama. After all, he watched 4 men die in Benghazi and did nothing. This doesn't make up for or erase his actions. And finally, Bill Jones says, "A storm reelects a president? All the debates, all the campaigning, all the hard work from thousands of volunteers out the window? If it's determined that this dreadful incident was a deciding factor, the American culture is worse off than we thought." What do you think about what they had to say?
The last one was the most astute. There has been a lot of work right now. There's all this. I don't think even in the worst case scenario it would have reelected him. I think it might have delayed the election results. Had this storm really whacked Virginia and knocked out power the way it got knocked out there last summer with that storm, that's a state that's hinging in the balance on how this goes. That could have really slowed things down. I don't think anybody's minds would have changed because of it, though. I would love, and I'm a cynic, you know that, and you may know that already, but I'm kind of
You not only think the glass is half empty, you think it's filled with shards of glass.
Shards of glass, and if you get rid of those, there are no more shards of glass to put in there, and I like the shards of glass. So that's how, but so
you comedians.
I think, I would love to think, though, that people don't buy the dog and pony show at this point. If they were going to buy the dog and pony show, then the last 2 debates where he was universally proclaimed the winner by the media, yet Romney kept inching inexorably forward in the polls, that wouldn't have happened. So that's why I think we've got proof now that people don't buy it anymore.
It's sweet, and we know that Benghazi even has moved into the general social discussion sphere because of Jay Leno joking about it. It's been completely blacked out, and as both of you know, comedy is the best way to make some social comments. Jay Leno really eviscerated Obama on Benghazi. People were a little surprised they even heard the word, but it tells you that it's getting through.
Well, in the aftermath of Sandy, President Obama visited New Jersey with his new BFF, Chris Christie. Yeah. They're inseparable.
Hardy? Which one's the short one? I forget. Laurel?
Just wait until they release their duet of Ebony and Ivory.
You weren't going for height on that. Don't pretend.
Oh.
So what do you make of this new alliance?
What are you talking about?
Jack Spratt and
look, we know that Chris Christie's got an election coming up in 2013.
Yeah.
Cory Booker's probably going to run against him. Cory Booker maybe more conservative than Chris Christie. And it'll be interesting. He's well liked. People like Chris Christie as well. I got some tweets the other day when I mentioned that he is a gas bag, Chris Christie. Not that I have an opinion. Who likes attention and excitement. And I heard from a lot of people on Twitter that he's the best thing that's happened in New Jersey ever. I said it's time to raise the bar. When you've had liberal leadership, of course, Chris Christie. My dog would be the best thing that would happen in New Jersey after Corzine. Come on. So you really, as Americans, we've gotten so used to politicians being creepy. And look, even Chris Christie knew when he said, "I'm not going to run for president because my demeanor is not really suited for that." He knows he's a gas bag, and so I appreciate that. But so he played politics with the hurricane. He's clearly not going to be
Charlie
secretary.
Crist did something similar to this.
Well, like they all
term.
do, but I think it's also payback. I don't think he's going to be a secretary in Romney's cabinet.
How mad is Romney at Chris Christie right now? How mad should he be?
I think, well, two questions there. The first one, I think he's probably a bit upset at him because he has been a faithful way back early in the primaries. Christie was one of the first people to endorse Romney.
And for a Mormon being a bit upset, it's just maybe saying dag nabbit.
So he's he's been a good Romney surrogate until this point. However, how mad should he be? This is a difficult situation because he is still the governor of the state. It was bad news. I don't know, unless you're Jan Brewer, how you just say, no, don't come here. I think she may be the only governor in America with the cojones to tell the president no, and then if he does land, to go like that. I don't think there is any governor in America anywhere else who would say no to the president in a time of crisis showing up for something. So,
admit it, though. Privately, you want him to be so mad at Chris Christie that he's like a gang member when the Raiders
I
lose.
want the whole place tearing their hair out right now. I want them to know that, okay, when you come up for re-election, we're endorsing Cory Booker. That's what I want.
Or maybe Romney could just come out in one of those Italian tees, with some chains on his neck, saying, "I've had enough."
Yeah, like the situation.
That would be great.
All right. Well, here's a clip of the president speaking this week in the Northeast.
America's tougher, and we're tougher because we pull together, we leave nobody behind, we make sure that we respond as a nation, and remind ourselves that whenever an American is in need, all of us stand together to make sure that we're providing the help that's necessary.
All right, pop quiz. Was he talking about Hurricane Sandy or Benghazi?
Oh, gee, we have to think about that one, don't we?
He's not as well versed on Benghazi. He couldn't have been talking about it.
There are no voters there in Libya, really, and certainly maybe there were 4. Now there aren't any, are there? Yeah.
Well, this is an interesting juxtaposition
Curious.
where he's giving press conferences like this, where he's talking about the openness and, as you mentioned, not leaving anyone behind. And this is all in the wake of the disaster that was Benghazi.
I think it's partly guilt. I think it reveals that they know how bad their Benghazi response was. Catherine Herridge has come out last night with some extraordinary news about a new cable that came in 3 weeks earlier from Christopher Stevens. I mean, these things are shocking, and I think that particular press conference indicates that Obama knows how he's being viewed, and they know what they did.
And he's still very good at the theater when he's not being challenged by questions, too. That's the only reason. That wasn't really a press conference because there weren't going to be any difficult gotcha moments. So it's, because he's been avoiding press conferences like the plague for months, a year at least now, and doing the softball stuff. So this was one of the few things in the madness that has been this whole Panic at the Disco effect with OFA for the last month and a half. This was one of the few things they've actually been able to control, ironically, is the response to this hurricane, to get him out there. And it's all just these little set theater pieces all over. It's like acting class in LA. That's all that's been going on here with him for the last couple of days.
And Charles Krauthammer of the Washington Post and Fox News criticized him for this. He said he's playing the presidential card here, where he is doing that village people moment, where he's out there and dressing up and being commander in chief and being the guy in charge, and that's something uniquely suited for an incumbent, and only an incumbent can do that.
It's
a challenger
presumed,
can't.
But it's presumed that if you're doing that, you're also governing in every other way. These things help you when there's a whole spectrum of things that you've done. When you're following up an international event that shows that there's ice water in your veins, it highlights those moments even more. Maybe in the first 6 months of his term this worked, this don't let a good crisis go to waste. now every time they respond to a crisis highlights what else they haven't been doing.
And he was, I don't know if you remember that storm that hit New Orleans a few months ago. He didn't do anything in response to that. Romney actually responded early, and I don't even remember if we were out of the primaries yet. I think he was just the presumptive nominee yet. And he went down to Louisiana, took care of that, and the president didn't do everything. So he's got this litany of things he hasn't responded. Yeah.
He had no plans to go, you're right, and then Romney made a plan to go. And then weren't there fires in Texas? There was a state with a whole bunch of fires.
And Colorado. Well, he did go to Colorado.
I think it was Texas. And it was like, no, I mean, this is like, it's like the mafia, you know? I mean, this is a gang.
Apolitical. He's looking to appear to be above politics.
Well, when you have to look to appear to be that way, you've failed
And
the
then
test.
you come right back to, I think it was a USA Today headline today that says, Obama calls for bipartisanship and then attacks Romney. At the end, the way they worded it was they weren't self-aware.
Sure.
They didn't know that they were.
But he doesn't want to look political. He doesn't want to look like he's doing any dirty
You don't want to be
work.
politicizing an event like this.
Yeah, so he'll be beating Larry H. Parker at every slip and fall in the country. So he could be the guy to just, be there with the gauze and the Band-Aids and ready to take care of him. Now, let's take a look at Libya because we have more news about the events that happened the night of September 11th in Benghazi. We know that the CIA operators were told to stand down not once, but twice. In an interview last week, the president declined to answer whether or not assistance was denied. We also know that a suspect in the Benghazi attack was apprehended in Turkey. How appropriate in the month of November as we turn to Thanksgiving, who then released him into the custody of the Tunisian government. Now, Republican senators are accusing the administration of stonewalling on the issue. And will we get any answers about this before the election, or is he just going to sit on this and wait and hope that it goes away?
He's going to sit on this forever if he can. I mean, it's a cover-up. It's a blatant cover-up. So they're not going to suddenly uncover and go, oh, by the way, look what we found over here. That's not going to happen. I firmly believe they committed to covering this up from day one. And so they're going to stick with it until somebody busts them. And it's almost impossible without the mainstream media. I mean, that's how, it was the mainstream media that busted Watergate. You need some help from them, and they're not helping so far.
All right. Geraldo Rivera on Twitter was talking about this, and he compared it to Fast and Furious, but not in the way that you and I would compare it to Fast and Furious. He said this is a partisan Republican attack on the president, and it's out of line.
And he's got evidence. But the problem is it's in Al Capone's vault. So I'm not sure about that. About Fox, though, Catherine Herridge and Jennifer Griffin are doing Pulitzer-worthy coverage on this. Catherine Herridge last night, Jennifer Griffin from the beginning has been extraordinary. Thank God for Fox News that they're allowing their reporters to cover this, whether or not you're conservative or not. Look, when you've got a cable, as Herridge announced yesterday, she says that the culpability of the State Department, effectively saying there's blood on the State Department's hands. This cable has been through a secret source released. Herridge has seen it. There are now whistleblowers clearly in the State Department who are sick of this. And it says 3 weeks out of the attack, Christopher Stevens sends a cable saying, Al-Qaeda is here, the militias are not with us, Al-Qaeda's infiltrated the militias we're working with, we will not survive a coordinated attack, this is urgent, and we need more help. And even after getting that cable, what you said is right on the mark. They decided, and even on the night, they then decided to not send help. And then they decided to blame the YouTube video guy who's still sitting in solitary in the prison in downtown LA here.
PJ Tobacco.
This is a craven when it comes to what both that cable went to Hillary from Chris Stevens, a friend of hers. So of course they saw it.
How badly or how much should Romney be pushing this? Because Romney's not talking much about this at all. It's those of us in the media that are talking about this. It's not Mitt Romney. Should he be talking about this?
I think so, and I think the reason he's not is because of that one debate where they were calling it a gaffe, when Candy Crowley jumped in and tried to help the president, although she admitted later on that she was wrong. And I think he was so... The campaign, if left up to him, I think he would press it more. I smell campaign consultants here, and they usually reek. And I think that they got together after that debate and said, let's just dance around this issue and not push it too hard. When he should have doubled down, gone back and said, you know what, I was right about this. Because when you think about it, there isn't one single bit of news that's come out of this so far that has looked good for the president, okay? He's been wrong and or lied about everything from the beginning. The more we find out, the worse it gets. every single shred of this incident, it looks horrible for the White House, and they should be all over it. Much worse than Fast and Furious.
What's your prediction for next week? Who wins?
I think Romney has it. I mean, all the underneath numbers, the percentages of independents, where all of the movement is and all of the swing states, Romney is going to remarkable states you wouldn't think were in play. It's Wisconsin, it is Iowa, it's Colorado, it's Nevada. It is a remarkable thing to watch. And I think that Obama clearly has not learned any lessons. They're still flailing about. Not only is Romney going up, but at the same time, Obama's floor has collapsed. So I think as long as people stay vigilant and stay focused, it's going to be about the ground game. The sun is really going to be a shiny East Coast. It's going to be bright and the sun's going to be out. People must work for this, but I think this is going to happen.
Your prediction?
All I know is it's the final week before the campaign, and Obama for America is spending money defending blue states, and the Romney team is not spending any money defending red states that were supposed to go their way. So that looks good, and the undecided voters, the independents, have been overwhelmingly favoring Romney for a long time, and I do think they're going to vote because a lot of them are unemployed too.
How about Pennsylvania? Pennsylvania go for Romney or Obama?
You know, that's one of the tougher ones. I'm thrilled that it looks like Virginia is going to be fine. I think that it looks like Ohio's in play. I would love to see, we see numbers with independents that mirror what happened with Reagan in '84. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, gosh, you know, I trust the American people. I was a little shell-shocked in 2008. But Winston Churchill noted, Americans always do the right thing, eventually. I think this is our eventually.
Pennsylvania, blue or red?
I think it's going to be blue still. There's been some talk about eastern Pennsylvania leaning towards Romney a little more right now, but I think that's just a little. I think Ohio we're going to get. I don't think Pennsylvania. Yeah. But if Pennsylvania does go early, you'll be able to hear the screaming from Chicago all the way out here.
I say Obama by 1 point, and Obama wins Pennsylvania, but I hope I'm wrong and you're right.
We'll see.
That's all we have time for today. Thanks so much for joining us and for leaving us your feedback on Facebook and Twitter. Be sure to join us next week for a special Election Day coverage. Thanks to Tammy Bruce of TammyBruce.com and Stephen Kruiser of PJTV for being here. For PJTV, I'm John Phillips. Goodbye, friends.